everybody. This is Jennifer Palmer. I'm a healer and intuitive. And today I want to talk about forgiveness and karma. You may have heard, you're supposed to forgive people, right? You're supposed to forgive them. And that is so hard to do sometimes because really, even if it's a big or a small issue, maybe they really victimized you terribly, or it was just a small slight. Sometimes it just really still irks us. It's really hard to let go of things, but it's important to try. And so I want to talk about why, first of all, that you would want to do this. And then get into how. How do you really do it? I'm asked that question so many times, and I've had to do it myself, of course. We're all in this, right? We're all doing this together. We're all learning how to forgive and love each other. And if we're truly walking in the Christ consciousness light and that energy and bringing forth that energy to become kind of like a heaven on earth, then forgiveness is where it starts. So what does that mean? Well, let's start with karma. Consciously and unconsciously, we are all harming each other. It means people do it to us and we do it to others all the time. And, I'm at the personal point of view that if you're doing something, you're really coming from the heart and you're not meaning harm in any way, but maybe someone takes it that way, I don't view that as you're going to get bad karma. That's just a misunderstanding. But if you're being selfish or you're intending harm, even if it's more subconscious or unconscious, then that can create karma. It creates a negative cycle or loop. So I like to look at it kind of like a bank account. So if you think of karma, your karmic bank account as positives and negatives, how many good things have you done? How many bad things have you done, to keep it simple? And it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's the experiences, and it's about balancing the experiences and the energies of a certain lesson or situation. So if you're looking at it like a bank account, you might be adding really good deeds to that bank account. You're doing lots of good things, and eventually that karma in a positive way is going to come back to you. But if you're doing more negative things, or you're being more selfish or self-centered, or you're doing something to help yourself, knowing that it's going to harm others, and that it may not be necessarily the right thing to do, then that creates more of a negative situation, and then it builds up on the negative karma. But in that idea, it's almost like you have sub accounts in your bank accounts. So you've got some to do with, I don't know, let's say abuse, and you might have something else to do with money and finances. So there's different levels and types of karma. But if you just look at it as energies that are being balanced out, and to understand that we're in kind of like the cyclic experience where we have to overcome karma, if you look at it that way. I know it sounds a little strange to some people when I put it that way, but we're overcoming it. We're raising our vibration out of the karmic cycles. And the only way to do that is forgiveness. Let's talk about forgiveness. Because karma is a cyclic energy, it just repeats itself. It's a pattern that we're in. And we must break that pattern and rise above it. Okay? So to break it, we have to forgive those who have harmed us, and we have to be forgiven by the universe, by God, however you look at that, for what we've done to harm others. It's not necessarily that individual needs to forgive us, but we need to right the energy within us. It's always about what's within, okay? So a lot of people, they have a hard time forgiving because they're so stuck in the victimization that they experience that they're not able to really truly let it go. But it's not saying that for what that person did is okay. It doesn't mean that you should allow the person, if they're still in your life, to keep harming you or causing trouble or doing things to you. You're not meant to be a doormat. But it just means that once you're truly done with it and you've forgiven them and you've let it go and you've healed within and you've gotten whatever lessons or karmic balancing you needed from the situation, that will probably just go away. You don't necessarily need it in your life anymore, and then it will just fall away. The universe gives us what we need in our experience. So that means everything is an inside job, right? So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the things that still haven't been forgiven. and what you need to work through. It's really about what's within. It's not about saying what they did is okay. So that's a big one. You need to understand that, because the biggest atrocities out there, let's say someone was murdered or something like that, that's a terrible thing. It's never to say that that's okay, but you can come to peace within. And then that means that you've truly forgiven. Okay. If you feel any kind of trigger still with someone or something, a situation, if there's any kind of a negative trigger emotion there, then there's still work to do. You have not really truly forgiven. Now, a lot of people might forgive in their mind, but they've not forgiven in their heart. They've not forgiven in their emotions. They still have trauma associated with it. It's not done yet. You still have work to do there. If you can think about the person or the situation with no trigger and truly just still feel peace and love, even though you don't love what they did, you can have love for them as a soul, or appreciation at the very least for them as a soul and maybe what they helped you with. Or to even understand that we're all human and we all make mistakes, and sometimes terrible ones. And if you can remember that, then it's a little bit easier to get into that state. How do you forgive, right? Because we're sitting here talking about we must forgive. There's a balancing of energies. It's really our responsibility to forgive, right? But it's hard when we're so triggered, and it's their responsibility to make up for what they did to us. And then maybe we can forgive them. But, we don't really. We just, we just often are just like, okay. And then we hold it deep within us that we're still resenting them for what happened, or in fear that it's going to happen with somebody else, or it's not over yet. You're still in the cycle. So how do you break that karmic cycle and get into forgiveness? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to recognize the idea of when you're in that ego space versus when you're in the soul space. Okay. And that's a hard one for a lot of people to understand because, well, in our society, we're pretty much taught that ego is really where it's at. And we tend to think that ego is like, oh, I'm all this and you must love me. That's really not what it is. It's identifying so much with the personality, this avatar that you're calling you, the avatar that I call Jennifer, the avatar that you call your name, right? That's your mask in this lifetime. But you're a soul. You go so much more deep than that, and you've lived many lifetimes. So this isn't really who you are. It's an experience that you are having as a soul. Okay. And so when you get into your soul space, your soul, generally speaking, it feels love. It feels like it understands the whole purpose. Your soul knew what it was going to get into in this lifetime before you ever came here. Right. And I'm not saying that, any tragedy you've been through is all your fault or anything like that, but we have reasons why we choose these things as souls. Okay. And it's not about blaming yourself for things that show up. It's truly understanding the value and the gift of even the tragedies that are happening in your life. If you can't get into that soul space, you'll never be able to truly forgive. So that is the first step. You really have to get into that soul space. You have to see the bigger picture beyond this lifetime and what you're experiencing. And really, honestly, just the crap you're going through. We all go through it. But you have to look at why. It's like going to the gym, right? This is an easy thing to talk about. You go to the gym, that if you want to see results in your physical body where you're getting stronger or you have more endurance or, you can lift more weights, whatever it is, that only happens through stressing and straining and hurting your body to make it happen. You have to challenge your body. You have to stress it. You have to push it. And then it grows. And then you can do more. And then you challenge and stress it and harm it sometimes. You have to tear those muscle fibers. You have to get really out of breath and feel like you're not getting enough oxygen. But then your body grows from that. And then you are able to do more and more and more. It's the same thing when you're a soul and the difficulties that you're going through. And those people that are going through the most difficult things you can imagine, their souls have been working towards those traumas. And there's really deep soulful reasons and experiences that are bringing that forth. And if you can understand that some of your biggest challenges and your biggest traumas are actually helping you the most, then you can get in the mindset of forgiveness. Okay. So that's, if you can't get there, you're not really going to be able to forgive, probably. So you really have to get there. Otherwise, you're in ego trying to forgive, and the ego is always triggered. It's the way it's going to be. Your ego wants to be triggered because it's about protection. It wants to protect itself no matter what. And so when you see someone coming at you doing something, you're going to think, as an egoic person, which again, we all have ego, you're going to think it like, okay, they're coming at me, they're doing this thing, it's causing harm, or it's doing this, and I don't like that. It's not okay. And then we get more self-righteous. And I'm not saying that you don't deserve to be self-righteous or feel that way about something, but what I'm saying is that's never going to lead you to forgiveness, and it's never going to get you out of the karmic cycle. So this is never about making excuses. This is never about saying, oh, but I understand their souls and they're doing this and I'm doing that. That's a part of it. They've got their own karma and their own lessons that they're dealing with. Nobody gets away with anything here. Okay. So you just got to remember that. Okay. So if you're in that soul space and you can look at that situation and become the observer of what happened instead of the experiencer of what happened for just a moment, it's an entirely different consciousness. You're not just a single consciousness. You have different ways that you can view a situation within your own being. Okay. Remember that. It's not a bad thing to separate from the situation and see it almost like an observer or an outsider for a moment, because you can see more. That's how you get out of your ego. You got to move out of the situation and be one with the universe and see all the reasons why something could have happened. I call it data points. So, it could be lessons. Maybe there's something there you need to learn or understand to challenge you and to help you grow. It could be a balancing of karma. There could be patterns, even like family patterns and things that you're kind of helping the lineage overcome. There could be different motivations. Maybe you're meant to go through something because it sets you up to get onto your mission in your lifetime. So, for example, if you have a child who has disabilities, you care so much for your child. A lot of times we are set in motion by what happens to our children because we care so deeply for them. I'd say most of the time there's nobody that we could love more than our own child. So the universe uses your children to help you be the best person possible and to help you come into your mission. So if you have a child with disabilities, as an example, you're really motivated to help them in whatever way you can figure out. And that leads you into your mission a lot of times. So many people I've met get into what they're meant to do as a soul through what they've had to go through with their children. So I just, it's a tragedy a lot of times what we have to go through with our children, but that is your motivation. It creates that foundational space for you to step into your power and become who you're meant to be. And without that stressor or that challenge or that victimization, whatever happened, you wouldn't have that motivation. So if you can see all of that from that soul space point of view, you're going to much more easily be able to feel more grateful for the things that have come into your life that have been really hard. And one of the things that my guides like to say is the greater the challenge or the greater the adversity, the further you can catapult. Think of it as an energy. It doesn't have to keep you down. It doesn't have to ruin your life. It can actually be the fire or the catapult that sets you to go way forward in your life. And if you can do that, if you can see it and you can allow that to happen and use that energy or that victimization force for your own good, then you become the hero of your life. And that's really where it's all at, right? How can you become the hero? And it's not to say that it's easy. It's not to say you're going to get it right away. It is a process for sure. And certainly the more challenging that issue is, or the greater the adversity, the more you probably have to work through with it. It's not going to be overnight and it's not going to be easy, but it is so worth that process. So I just really encourage you to do it. Okay. And then Once you're aware of all those things, then you have a list of what you can work on to heal and clear within your own being. Maybe you have karma. I mean, I've had plenty of times when I had things showing up or challenges in my life, sometimes pretty bad challenges. I would consider really bad. I experienced some tough things. And then I realized that some of it was karma. There was a karmic situation there. And when you can become aware of what your karma is, there are techniques that you can use to work through it and have that karma forgiven, right? Especially if it's past lifetime. I can't go into a past lifetime and tell that person, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to do what I did, or those people. But what I can do is I can connect within myself and with the universe and the karmic board, or whatever it is you work with, the courts of heaven, whatever that is for you on your spiritual journey. You can connect within and work through that and gain that forgiveness. And if you've learned the lesson and you truly in your heart, are sorry for maybe what you have done as a soul, or on the opposite end, if you've truly in your heart forgiven the other soul for any harm that they've done to you, then that's truly forgiveness. Okay. So that's when you're beyond that. Now, finally, the other thing I want to say that really is helpful is remembering that other people's karma, other people's lessons are not your responsibility. You may get your side of the equation. Let's say you're having an issue with somebody who's close to you, and there's been a lot of victimization one way or another, or maybe both ways. You work your side of the road. Don't worry about theirs. That's for them to worry about. You don't have to wish that they get their karma returned to them. You don't have to wish that they're going to get, what they need, that justice will be done. That's not your responsibility. Now, sometimes, let's say, I don't know, someone harms you and, maybe you need to take them to court or they need to be arrested and then you need to press charges. Obviously, 3D things sometimes need to be done. It's not to say that you just don't respond in the 3D world. But again, everything is energy. You need to heal that within you. Okay. And it could be that 3D action that you need to take is a part of their karma, but it's not for you to really be concerned about. You don't need that to be your intention. You don't need that to be your motivation. You just go through whatever 3D motions you need to go through to try to make things right in whatever way you can in the 3D. But let go of expectation, let go of the idea that you're going to make them pay, or that you're going to make sure they receive their karma, or that there's any kind of retribution involved. You allow it to play out in whatever way it needs to for the highest good. You're going to take whatever action you need to take. And that might mean cutting people out of your life, getting a divorce, or, whatever, having a conversation or taking somebody to court, whatever it might be. You still do those things that you feel like you need to do, but the real work is within you. Okay. And try not to be in a negative mind space in any way possible with any of it. Let the universe, let God deal with that other person or people with their karma. Okay. And just trust that they're going to get whatever they need to get, whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime. It doesn't matter. None of us get out of this without balancing that karma. So always come back within. Okay. Now I know that this is quite a process, and it's a hard thing sometimes to really let go of what people have done to us in the past. But just sometimes journaling might help, so you can write down your thoughts and feelings around it, get into that soul space, see if you can figure out the data points, see if you can figure out why all this is showing up, what other patterns are there in your life that might correlate with this, and get to the root cause of whatever's going on. Okay. And then you're going to see magic happen. It really does shift your life. It shifts things, and you release so many burdens when you can accomplish this and truly let go. Okay. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope this was helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe. Get the word out. If you like my videos, get the word out, because I really would like to try to grow this channel and grow the community and have a lot more interaction. And I just really appreciate you so much. All right. Take care, guys.